Hi, my name is Morgan and I am a neuroscience researcher, and today we are reacting to the X-Files. If you haven't seen it, I already released part 1 to this video. Because each episode of the X-Files is 45 minutes long, there was just way too much in the last half of this episode, so I didn't want to make a super long video, so I split it into 2 parts. So go check out the first part if you want to see me talking about everything that happened in the first half of this episode, or I guess just stay here if you don't care about that. I'll put a link to part 1 in the card up here and in the description below. But just to catch you up, we're reacting to season 2, episode 3, titled Blood. And essentially what's happened up to this point is there's been a series of murders in this small town. One of the murderers had like a green residue under his fingers, and the killers always see these messages on machines before they kill people. And now Agent Mulder has found this fly that has been like, someone was just dumping dead flies, and Agent Mulder found one of the flies. Like I said in part 1, please don't come at me. I love the X-Files so much. Everything I say is just criticism as like from a science perspective, but as a fan of the show, I love it and I think it's wonderful. So I mean, go check out the X-Files if you haven't already watched it. Also, like I said in part 1, this episode's a little bit more psychology based than neuroscience based, but I do have a background in psychology as well as neuroscience because the two overlap so much, and because I study mental illnesses. So I still feel like I have something to add to this conversation. I've had a little bit more to add now that we finally got down to the science part. Part 1 was kind of just me talking a lot about the X-Files, but now we finally have some science for me to talk about, so I'll get into that now.
In our April edition.
Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with the X-Files, sorry to butt in so early, if you're unfamiliar with the X-Files, the people that Mulder has brought this fly to are called the Lone Gunmen. They had their own spin-off show for a little while. Essentially, they're a conspiracy theory group, but they just so happen to be right about most of their conspiracy theories, and they're very good with technology, so Mulder brings a lot of stuff that he doesn't want the government knowing about to them, and because he believes that this fly situation is a government conspiracy, he's brought the fly to the conspiracy theory rather than the government.
The Lone Gunmen, we ran an article on the CIA's new CCD-TH-2138 fiber optic lens micro video camera.
Small enough to be placed on the back of a fly.
Imagine being one of those flies on the wall of the Oval Office.
Been there, done that.
That is a Eurasian cluster fly. They infest vegetation like apples or cherries and can inflict a great deal of damage to crops.
This one's probably been irradiated to control propagation.
Or agents of competing South American agricultural corporations, posing as Franklin City employees, are releasing fertile flies to destroy the crop.
I love anytime the show visits the Lone Gunmen because they are such conspiracy theorists that sometimes they'll throw out the right thing and sometimes they'll throw out just something totally wild. So I don't think that these flies have cameras on their back. I don't know that a camera that small exists, but once again, I am a life scientist, not a electronics engineer, so maybe, but I haven't seen it. I have seen cameras small enough to put inside a mouse head, so I guess, well, it doesn't go like inside the mouse head, it goes like on top of the mouse head, but so maybe. I feel like it would be difficult for them to fly though, but maybe. If you know, let me know in the comments.
Nope, this bug's been nuked.
It was a fine effort, though. Have you ever come across this chemical compound?
LSDM. Obviously, you haven't read our August edition of TLG.
Oh, I'm sorry, boys. It arrived the same day as my subscription to Celebrity Skin.
Come over here.
So, Mulder, where's your little partner?
She wouldn't come. She's afraid of her love for you.
She's tasty.
You know, Frohickey, it's men like you that give perversion a bad name.
Here. Talk.
While I do love this show and its portrayal of a female scientist, it also accurately portrays the sexual harassment that we face. So that's something, but at least Mulder stuck up for her.
Toxic pesticides. The chemical you have in that report is called lysergic dimethrin. It's an unreleased experimental synthetic botanical insecticide. It attempts to act as a natural pheromone.
LSDM is sprayed on the plant, which invokes a fear response in the pest. You know, get out of here, there's danger. The insect reacts and leaves the plant.
Why won't they release it? Is it possible it affects humans in the same way?
Possible. Let me show you something.
This is actual newsreel footage taken in the 50s. They're spraying DDT, a chemical the government did release and determined to be safe.
30 years later, they found out that women exposed to it had higher rates of breast cancer. They convinced local officials it was even safe to spray on children. It took a decade of bureaucratic and industry heel-dragging before it was banned.
This show does make its points to call out where the government has definitely made mistakes in the past, and I will not be defending those here. So yeah, in the past, the government did okay DDT, and we discovered that it was bad. If you believe government conspiracies, you would say like they always knew that it was bad. My personal theory is just that we highly under-research women all the time, forever. So the likelihood that they even studied its effects on women prior to releasing it is like very slim. But also there have been cases in the past where we have on purpose made women infertile, if you look at stuff that was done to women in Puerto Rico and things like that. So who knows? I would not say that I trust our government to the greatest extent. But that's not what this channel is about. This channel is about science, and the science is that everything they're saying is right.
Different chemicals, same stunts.
I just learned how not to be so obvious.
Hey, Frohickey, can I borrow those?
If I can have Scully's phone number.
Okay, so just to summarize what just happened, because again, the X-Files takes a little while to do stuff. Mulder took out the night vision goggles, went to a field, was watching them, then was sprayed along with the field with this pesticide chemical thing.
Stealth helicopters? Experimental pesticides responsible for violent behavior?
I saw the chopper from 2 different locations. Look at my skin. Feel my hair. The insecticide is still on me.
I've checked up on you. You have a penchant for spooky evidence.
This is an ongoing joke because people in the FBI Academy called him Spooky Mulder, which I think is the funniest bullying nickname for grown adults to come up with.
Start with that tired crap. Don't start diverting blame.
Hang on a second
Look,
here.
if you're the one who's responsible for the illegal spraying, then the sooner you take responsibility, the sooner people will stop dying. The killers all resided near heavily sprayed areas.
You don't live here, Mulder. I live here. I have my heart in this town. I have 3 children. I'm not gonna dump poison on them.
Yeah, well, if it's so safe, why was it done in secret?
What kind of a crusade are you on?
Answer the question. Are we spraying?
This county lives on money generated from its crops. The irradiated flies were not effective. The delays to get approval to spray would have caused millions in crop damage.
I'm like pretty sure that this dude is meant to be like the mayor or something, and as someone who came from a farming town, that's not who decides what the crops get sprayed with. The individual farmers get their crops sprayed, I'm pretty sure. So that's a weird way for them to get the government conspiracy thing to happen. I don't know, but if I've learned anything from watching any media, it's that Hollywood people don't understand how small towns work because they're not from small towns.
Look at the hell they raised in California over malathion. Meanwhile, people's lives were being ruined by a damn bug.
Ruined? 23 people are dead.
There's no proof whatsoever the spray caused violent behavior. It was proven to me to be safe.
By who? Who proved it to you?
Never trust someone who says that something was proven to them but won't prove it to you. That's why scientific articles are published in peer-reviewed journals. You are able to prove it to multiple people, and even then sometimes it's iffy depending on like who your reviewers were. But ideally having to prove yourself to other people will make the science better and more reliable. So don't just trust people like that, especially, again, assuming this guy's the mayor because they haven't really given him a title. Assume that he's not a scientist, and so proving something to a layperson is, you're typically under less scrutiny than you would be if you were proving it to a fellow scientist who knew all of the like jargon that you were using.
I'm sorry, Mulder, he's right. I'd love to tell you that I flew 300 miles in the middle of the night to perform tests that proved that you were about to become the next Charles Manson. But I find little physiological evidence that states that LSDM has toxically affected you, even after massive ingestion.
Scully, your own autopsy reported the killer had chemical anomalies.
Yes, but you are proof that it wasn't from exposure to LSDM.
They're definitely making judgments way too soon because different compounds will react differently with someone's body, also with everyone's body differently. That's why, like, say, like ibuprofen, it says that you should take it every 4 to 6 hours. That range is because people metabolize things differently. It's not because, like, sometimes you'll need one and sometimes you'll need the other. It's because, like, you personally may need it every 4 hours, but like I might need it every 6 hours. Who knows, honestly. He's had less than 24 hours to properly like metabolize whatever that was. So I doubt that you would be seeing any effects, especially because we're saying it's going to the adrenal glands. So the stuff most likely would have entered through his face because that's where like the majority of your orifices are. And so he probably would breathe it in, would be the most likely like route of delivery. Your adrenal glands are near your kidneys. They're actually like directly on top of your kidneys. So it would take a while for it to get from your mouth to your kidneys, and it would also take however long this drug takes to affect things to actually cause your kidneys to start producing more adrenaline, because also how much adrenaline your kidneys produce is based on your brain. So it kind of have to go like mouth, kidneys, brain, back to kidneys, I think. I'm pretty sure. I'll look it up whenever I'm editing this and like put something here whether I'm right or wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how that would have to work. So my point is they have no way of knowing this yet.
May I see that chart, Agent Scully?
Sure. Look here. These are normal. Average.
That was terrifying.
LSDM spray.
Scully, are you familiar with subliminal messages?
You mean like sex and ice cubes of liquor ads? That's paranoia.
No, it's a fact that some department stores use subliminal messages in their ambient music to deter shoplifting. And the Russians have been using advanced electroencephalographic techniques to control behavior.
And how is this connected with the spraying?
Electronic devices were destroyed by every perpetrator.
So I actually don't know if there's any science behind subliminal messaging. I know it is a marketing tactic that is used, but there are a lot of marketing tactics that are used that aren't necessarily like scientifically proven. They're just things that people think. So I don't know for sure whether or not subliminal messaging works. It is possible like certain sounds will make you like happier or sadder, and you're like more likely to do certain things if you're like in those states. But that's really all that I know.
Still waiting.
The insecticide LSDM is known to invoke a fear response in cluster flies. What if the chemical causes the same reaction in humans?
I'm going to skip over this part again because it mentions the situation with the woman again, so I don't want to expose any of my viewers to that situation again. But essentially the argument that Mulder is making is that all of the people who were violent were also afraid of something, and so they had a phobia of whatever. Which there is a distinction between a phobia and a fear, and usually it's something along the lines of like an irrational fear. So what the woman had was a very rational fear. Claustrophobia, if you have actual claustrophobia, is like that's a thing, that's an actual phobia that exists. But likely what the man was experiencing was just a one-time fear of being in that space crowded by people. And so if you have one singular fear experience, that doesn't necessarily mean you have a phobia of a thing. This is actually something that a lot of research runs into whenever people are trying to study phobias or fears or anxiety, because there are differences in those words, but whenever we're studying it in animal models, we can't ask them like, every time do you see this, are you afraid of it? Or are you irrationally afraid of this thing? Or is it like a very rational fear and stuff like that? So it's actually sort of hard to study the distinction between these different types of fear.
I think this area is being subjected to a controlled experiment.
Controlled by who? By the government? By a corporation, by reticulans?
They've done it before. DDT in the 50s, Agent Orange, germ warfare on unsuspecting neighborhoods.
Yes, but why, Mulder? Why would they intentionally create a populace that destroys itself?
That's a very bad take. Like, yes, they tested bad chemicals on the population before, but why would they do it again? I love Scully with all my heart, but that was a bad take.
Fear. It's the oldest tool of power. If you're distracted by fear of those around you, it keeps you from seeing the actions of those above.
Actually, fun fact, there's been a lot of studies on the use of fear versus like reward. People are actually more responsive to rewards than they are to fear. And so like say you're in a workplace environment, if you're afraid of your boss, you're less likely to be as productive as if you really enjoyed your boss, or if you were like afraid of your boss versus if you really enjoy your job. So companies should actually be putting like a larger focus on making their employees happy rather than afraid. So that's fun. Also, like, animals in training respond better to positive reinforcement than to negative reinforcement.
I just had a talk with Mr. Winter. I persuaded him to a compromise. He's agreed to stop the spraying immediately and to blood testing extensively of people exposed to the spray area.
But
But the official explanation for the testing cannot be linked to the side effects of LSDM.
Franklin and Venango counties are participating in an important nationwide study on cholesterol. Volunteers will be coming to your door, or you may report at your convenience to Franklin Community General. The procedure is very simple and painless. Just a little prick on the fingertip, and your participation is complete and appreciated. So remember, cholesterol screening can save your life. So when those volunteers come to your door, answer readily, or you may report at your convenience to Franklin Community General.
So my dude bought a gun. That's definitely going to end well. Okay, so just to summarize that, because it took a really long time and I don't want to include all of that, the guy who bought the gun and who's been sort of the main person who we've been following throughout this, there's a blood drive volunteer knocking on his door, and he is freaking out because of the blood, and the TV and his calculator and I think his watch told him that there's blood and that he should kill people. So that's where we are now.
Uh-huh. Last area just reported in. Okay. These are the sectors that have tested negative. This is a list of people for one reason or another having checked out. There's about 25.
only 7 more to go.
This is odd.
Frustrated Jehovah's Witness?
Door's unlocked.
So after the guy didn't answer his door for the blood drive volunteer, they sent Mulder and Scully out to his house, and they discovered that he had ripped off the doorbell and that his gun was missing.
Edward Funch, age 52, no diploma, no vehicle or driver's license, Navy radio man, wife died 10 years ago, no kids, no known family, just been laid off. Medical history?
Nothing. And he hasn't seen a doctor in decades.
When was the blood tester here?
About 10:30 this morning.
10:30. The blood test. I know what he's afraid of. And I know where he's going.
So I understand this man isn't in a particularly great headspace, but I would guess if you had a fear of blood, you would not go towards the blood donation site.
Stop! Hey!
All right, hold on a second.
Thank you.
Down near far end.
C1, this is X-ray 4. Negative on that north-south line.
Copy that. If he's on it, it's gonna be this line.
Here it comes.
Get the uniforms out of sight.
You seen this man?
Yeah, I picked him up. Drove 4 feet and then he went 8 wire.
Where'd you let him out?
Near the college.
Okay, so what just happened is that the guy showed up to the bus. He decided to then get off the bus because the bus was sending him signals. And then he went to the community college instead, where they're also doing the blood drive at. And now he's climbed into this tower where he's gonna go with his gun and be in a tower. So because I don't want to show just a giant clip of this man shooting at people, what has now happened is that he's at the top of the tower, he's shooting at the people down below, and it shows him progressively getting more and more worked up about what is going on, and presumably the adrenaline kicking in. He's like sweating and crying and screaming and all of those things. Mulder has now also found the tower and is running up after him.
Put it down! Put it down!
Don't kill me.
And put it down, Ed.
I can't. They won't let me.
I know they won't, Ed. I know they won't let you.
Then you make me put it down, man. You do it.
If you don't put it down, I'm gonna have to shoot you. Or you're gonna have to shoot me. There's gonna be blood everywhere.
I'm not a fan of using people's phobias against them. I think if someone has a fear of something, you should try to help them overcome that. I understand this man is holding a gun and is a bad person, but there's got to be other ways. I don't think you should use someone's own fears against them. You also shouldn't use a gun against people, though, so I guess that's something.
Oh.
So now at least they finally have a live person to talk to about whatever's going on.
Agent Scully will examine him at the hospital. You can call her.
I want unrestricted access to him for questioning.
Mulder, you know more about what happened to him than he does.
Very concerned about that. Alright, so that's that episode. I'm sorry that there wasn't more science for me to comment on. I really felt like there was, but I guess there wasn't as much as I thought that there was. I assumed with Scully being a medical doctor that maybe there was a little bit more. In other episodes there is more science, but it's not science that I'm necessarily familiar with, so I figure I'd go with more of a psychological episode. But it is what it is. I've spent like 3 hours filming part 1 and part 2 of this, so I'm still going to post it. You're welcome. But even though that wasn't as neuroscience-y as my videos normally are, I hope that you still enjoyed it, and I hope if you aren't a fan of The X-Files yet, I hope you start watching it and develop a love for it that I have. If you'd like to see more reaction videos, please let me know in a comment down below or in email at askANeuroResearcher@gmail.com what types of shows and videos you'd like for me to be responding to or reacting to. I will eventually get back to the Big Bang Theory episodes, but I needed to take a small break from them. I thought The X-Files was a nice detour from that. Like I said at the beginning, please go follow me on social media if you want to be involved in making decisions for this channel. I put a lot of polls up on my story for various things like video suggestions, and also if you just want to see what it's like to work in a lab or keep up with me from day to day. If you haven't already, please, please, please subscribe to my channel. It would help me out a lot, and it would mean so much to me to reach that 1,000 subscriber goal. That would just be so amazing, so please help me out with that. And with all of that, I'll be seeing you next Wednesday with another neuroscience video. Bye.